Welcome to the Astro Narrator, where the universe becomes a story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Valhyris was a world that seemed alive with tension. Every ridge, every jagged shard of metal, every pulse of light in the ground whispered danger. Commander Orion Hale moved cautiously across the electrified valley, each step sending sparks dancing along the cracked stone beneath his boots. His hover bike waited nearby, its engine humming faintly, but for now he had to proceed on foot. Something was wrong. He could feel it. The mission briefing had been simple. Survey the seismic anomalies, gather data, and leave. Nothing had prepared him for the signs of life. Nothing had prepared him for the echoes of movement, faint and irregular, that were not natural. A faint cry reached his ears, a sound so fragile it could have been the wind if he were not listening closely. He froze. The sound came again, weaker this time, fragile but unmistakably human-like. His pulse quickened. It was someone in distress. Orion edged along the ridge, moving carefully between jagged crystal spires. The air vibrated faintly, charged with static energy that made his suit hum. He rounded a rock formation and stopped dead. There, against a glowing shard of metal, lay a woman. Not human. Her skin shimmered with a metallic sheen, silver with faint bluish undertones. Her ceremonial armor was cracked, blood staining the intricate runes etched across her chest. Her hair, a pale white, framed a face both beautiful and battered. Her eyes, amber like molten gold, fluttered open for a moment before closing again. She was unconscious, fragile, but alive that Orion's training took over. He dropped to his knees beside her, checking for vital signs. Pulse weak, temperature low, breathing shallow. Whoever she was, she needed help, and fast. The wound along her side had the clean precision of an imperial shock blade. She had been attacked, abandoned, and left for dead. The realization burned in his mind. She would not survive long without immediate aid. He pulled out his field medikit and administered a small dose of hydration serum. A faint hiss filled the air as the liquid entered her system. Her eyes fluttered again, and she whispered weakly, fragmented words that Orion could barely understand. Why, human, why save? He shook his head, muttering, because you need help. That's it. That's all that matters. Carefully, he lifted her onto his hover bike. She was lighter than he expected, almost fragile in his arms. Yet her presence carried an intensity that made him pause. The wind shifted around them, carrying a low hum that vibrated through his suit. It was as if the planet itself recognized the significance of this moment. Then he noticed the movement in the sky. 3 sleek Imperial drones descending from orbit, scanning the valley with piercing red sensors. Orion cursed under his breath. There was no way he could outrun them without a fight. He slid onto the hover bike, strapping the alien woman securely in the passenger cradle. Her fingers twitched slightly against the glowing runes on her armor, and her eyes opened, amber and bewildered. Help? She whispered, barely audible. Orion offered a faint, reassuring nod. They're after you, he said, more to himself than her. And I'm not letting them catch you. The first drone fired a stun pulse. Sparks flew as the energy beam hit a ridge just ahead of them. Orion twisted the hover bike sharply, dodging the attack. Another beam scorched the ground near their path, sending shards of electrified stone flying in every direction. He pushed the bike to its limits, weaving through jagged spires, the woman groaning softly behind him. Minutes stretched like hours as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Every turn, every sudden dip in the valley could have been fatal. Orion's grip on the controls was steady, but his mind raced. Who was she? Why was she being hunted so relentlessly? And why did the glow of her runes seem to react to his presence, flickering faintly whenever he adjusted his path? The drones pursued relentlessly, forcing Orion to use every trick he had learned in his years of combat. He made sudden dives and tight turns, scraping past sharp rock formations that sent sparks cascading into the sky. The alien woman shifted slightly, one hand brushing against his back. He could feel her strength waning, her body barely holding together under the stress of the escape. Then came a moment of stillness. The drones had fallen slightly behind as Orion pushed through a narrow canyon. The valley seemed to hold its breath. The woman's eyes met his for a moment, and he could see fear, awe, and something deeper, something he could not yet name. Her hand twitched again, brushing against the glowing runes on her armor. The faint energy pulsed brighter, almost as if responding to the intensity of the situation, and Orion realized that her power was not dormant. It was alive, waiting that a sudden tremor shook the ground beneath them. The hover bike wobbled dangerously, and Orion had to fight to maintain control. He glanced at the woman. Her hair had fallen across her face, and her breathing was shallow but steady. She was still alive. That was all that mattered. He could not leave her here. As the canyon widened, he pushed the hover bike into an open expanse, scanning for a path that would allow them to escape the drones. Sparks erupted around them as energy beams scorched the edges of the valley. Orion ducked low, maneuvering past jagged metal spires that scraped dangerously close to the hover bike. The alien woman groaned softly, and he reached back instinctively to steady her. Her eyes opened again, flickering with curiosity and fear. "I don't even know your name," he muttered under his breath. "But I'm not letting anything happen to you." She managed a faint whisper. "Lysra." Orion nodded, gripping the controls tighter. "Lysra, hang on." The valley stretched endlessly before them, a treacherous landscape of jagged metal and glowing veins of energy. The drones were relentless, but Orion had found a rhythm, dodging, weaving, pressing forward through the chaos. The bond between him and the alien woman, tenuous and unspoken, grew stronger with every heartbeat. He knew that saving her was not just a choice. It was destiny taking its first step. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the drones fell slightly behind, and Orion allowed himself a moment to breathe. The woman lay against him, exhausted but alive. Her amber eyes flickered up at him, filled with a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. Orion offered a small, reassuring smile, though his mind raced with questions. "Safe for now," he whispered. But this is only the beginning. He didn't know what lay ahead, what secrets the runes held, or what the Empire would do next. All he knew was that he had chosen to act, and that choice would echo far beyond this valley, beyond this planet, beyond everything he had ever known. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, he felt that they could face it together. The glow from the blade still lingered in Orion's hands, blue fire licking the edges as if alive. Around them, the alien clan remained frozen on the jagged canyon floor, their knees pressed against the metal shards, whispers echoing through the charged air. Even the War Master's chest heaved as he tried to comprehend what had just happened. Humans were never part of their prophecies, never meant to wield their sacred runes. And yet, here he was. Lysra lay against Orion's side, her breath shallow, eyes wide with awe and fear. She had never imagined a human would survive her world, let alone become the focus of a ritual older than her oldest memories. The pulse of the blade's magic brushed against her fingers, sending tiny sparks of energy along her skin. She flinched, then relaxed, realizing the glow was responding to Orion, not her. Orion glanced down at her. "You're heavier than you look," he muttered, a faint humor breaking through the tension. She coughed softly, trying to form a reply, but the sound was barely audible. He adjusted the strap, holding her on the hover bike, careful not to press too hard, and whispered, "It's okay. I've got you." For a long moment, neither spoke. The clan continued their murmured whispers, broken by the occasional metallic click of shifting armor. The canyon seemed to breathe with the energy of the runes, small vibrations in the ground, the hum of ancient power threading through the air. Orion had never felt anything like it. He wasn't just in an alien world. He was in the presence of something alive, something older than any empire he had ever known. Finally, Lysra whispered, her voice shaking. "The prophecy, the severed star, it isn't supposed to choose humans." Her amber eyes flickered to his, vulnerability mixed with awe. It's impossible. Orion frowned. Then I guess impossible is what we do. He tried to smile, hoping to lighten the weight of the moment. She couldn't help but let out a small, incredulous laugh. It was soft to sound like a breeze across metal, and it felt out of place in the tense, charged valley. But for a fleeting instant, it made the impossible feel manageable. Movement behind them caught their attention. The clan war master had risen to his knees, his massive frame swaying with the effort. This human wields the blade without understanding. The runes are awakening, and the prophecy, it chooses him. Lysra, what have you done? His voice was both fear and awe, reverberating through the canyon. Lysra sat upright as best she could, leaning slightly on Orion. I followed the guidance of the runes. I tried to prevent a tragedy, but I never expected this, she admitted. Her voice grew steadier with each word, the warmth of trust in Orion's presence giving her courage. Orion, I don't know if the clan will forgive me, or you. Orion's hands tightened on the hoverbike controls. We'll figure that out, one step at a time. But right now, we survive. Then we deal with the politics. The words carried weight he didn't fully feel yet, but saying them aloud made them real. There was power in voice, in resolve. Suddenly, a low hum resonated through the canyon. Not from the blade, but from the ground beneath them. The metallic floor shifted subtly, and Orion realized that the valley itself responded to the rune's activation. Tiny fissures of light erupted in the cracks of the jagged stone, casting the canyon in an otherworldly glow. It was beautiful, terrifying, alive. Orion glanced at Lysra. What is this? He asked. It's the heart of Valhyris, she whispered. The place where the runes awaken, where they judge. You've activated it. You're not just part of the prophecy, you are connected. Her hand brushed against the runes on her armor, energy flowing slightly, responding to his presence as if they were linked by some unseen force. The moment of awe shattered when a shadow streaked across the ridge above them. 3 Imperial Seekers descended from the sky, sensors glowing red. Orion gritted his teeth. They're here, he muttered, voice low. He had hoped that surviving the clan would be enough, but the Empire never rested. Not when power like this existed. The drones fired a volley of pulses at the valley, energy beams cutting through the air with lethal precision. Orion pushed the hoverbike forward, dodging and weaving between shards of electrified stone. Lysra's hand instinctively rose to her side, touching the glowing runes. A soft pulse radiated from her armor, briefly shielding them from the energy beams. Orion realized that she wasn't just fragile. She had power, latent and untapped, that complemented the runes in his hand. Hold on, he shouted over the roar of engines and the pulse of energy. We're not done yet. The chase was relentless. The drones followed every twist, every leap of the hoverbike, but Orion and Lysra moved as a single unit. Her subtle gestures, barely noticeable, seemed to direct the energy around them. Sparks danced in response, creating momentary shields that allowed them to navigate through the canyon safely. It was a dance of survival and instinct, human and alien connected by destiny and trust. Eventually, the canyon narrowed, and Orion found a hidden fissure between the jagged stones. He dove through at full speed, the hoverbike scraping past edges, the drone beams slicing just inches behind. The fissure closed briefly behind them, shielding them from immediate pursuit. He exhaled sharply, glancing at Lysra. Her amber eyes met his, wide and alert, yet tinged with wonder. You saved me, she said quietly. I don't know how to repay you. Orion gave a small, wry smile. Just survive. That's payment enough. But we're not safe yet. His voice was calm, steady, but inside his mind raced. The prophecy, the clan, the empire, everything was converging, and they were caught in the middle of it all. Lysra sat up more fully, the faint glow of the runes along her armor pulsing in time with the one in Orion's hands. I think the runes, they chose you, but we are linked now, she said in her voice. If something happens to you, it will affect me too. Orion's eyes narrowed. Then we stick together. Whatever comes, We face it as a team. The valley, alive with the hum of energy and whispers of the clan in the distance, seemed to acknowledge his resolve. For the first time, Orion felt the weight of destiny, not as a burden, but as a purpose. Lysera's presence, her courage and power, had become entwined with his own, forming a bond neither fully understood. Yet both would rely on that a sudden tremor shook the canyon floor. The fissures of light along the stones glimmered brighter. It was a warning, a reminder, and a promise. This world had far more to reveal, and the Empire would not wait. Orion tightened his grip on the hoverbike and looked at Lysera. "This is only the beginning," he said. Her hand brushed lightly against his shoulder, a silent affirmation. Together, they would navigate the chaos, confront the prophecy, and survive what lay ahead. The bond between human and alien, fragile yet unbreakable, had begun, and somewhere, deep in the veins of the valley, the runes pulsed brighter, recognizing the choice they had made. A human chosen to carry the legacy, and an alien warrior whose courage would define the path forward. The valley had settled into an uneasy quiet. The glow of the runes on Orion's palm and Lysera's armor had dimmed, but the residual energy hummed through the air, a constant reminder of what had just occurred. The clan remained in the distance, silent, kneeling, whispers still threading across the canyon like a half-forgotten chant. For Orion, the adrenaline had not yet left his system. Every muscle in his body was tense, every nerve alert. And yet, beside him, Lysera stirred, more aware, more alive than before. "Orion," she whispered, her voice steady now, but low and cautious. "The runes, they don't just choose. They connect." Her fingers brushed lightly over the glowing patterns etched into her armor. When the chosen is near, it resonates. It links. Orion glanced at her, incredulous. "Resonates? Links? You mean like a psychic connection?" She nodded, eyes darting to the faint cracks in the canyon floor where light pulsed in irregular patterns. "It's rare. Dangerous. The clan has never seen it happen with a human before. Not since the Severed Star prophecy began centuries ago." He swallowed, the weight of the moment pressing against him. "And what does it mean for us?" Lysera's lips curved faintly into a wry smile. "It means you can't leave me alone. Not now. Not ever. The runes have tied our fates together." Orion raised an eyebrow, a dry humor threading through his tension. "Great. So now I'm bonded to an alien warrior by ancient magic, and the Empire is probably plotting to kill us both. Sounds like a typical day." She chuckled softly, a sound that lifted the heaviness of the valley. "You underestimate it. The connection is more than physical. It's emotional, psychic. You'll feel my pain if I'm harmed. I'll sense danger if you're threatened." Her amber eyes glimmered in the faint glow of the runes. "It's intimate, in a way you're not prepared for." Orion shook his head, a faint grin tugging at his lips. "I think I'll manage." "Probably." The brief respite ended abruptly. A tremor ran through the valley, sharper than before, followed by a distant metallic roar. The cliffs above shook as Imperial Scout drones descended once more. This time, they were accompanied by armored troops, elite strike units in dark, reflective armor with red visors, silent but lethal. Orion's jaw tightened. "They're fast," Lysera murmured, touching the runes along her armor. The glow flared faintly in response. "Faster than any pursuit force we've evaded before. They know exactly where we are." Orion's mind raced, calculating the terrain, the odds, the possibilities. "Then we fight smart. We use the canyon." And he paused, glancing at Lysera. "We use your connection. Whatever that really means." She nodded, a spark of determination lighting her face. She reached out, her hand brushing against his. The runes pulsed stronger, their energy intertwining across the short space between them. Orion felt a strange warmth, a hum through his body that was both alien and familiar. Images flashed briefly in his mind, fragments of Lysera's memories, her clan, past battles, moments of fear and triumph. It was disorienting, overwhelming, and yet it made him understand her in a way words never could. The drones advanced, sweeping the canyon with energy pulses. Orion drew a steadying breath, gripping his hoverbike controls tighter. He felt Lysera's presence in tandem with his movements, a subtle guidance, as if the runes themselves whispered directions. They moved as one, dodging and weaving between jagged spires of metal, each pulse of energy synchronized with the psychic resonance he now felt coursing through him. "Turn left," Lysera murmured. Her words were more than sound. They echoed in his mind. Orion obeyed instinctively. Sparks flew around them as they narrowly escaped a volley of energy blasts. Another split-second maneuver, guided not by sight, but by the unspoken link between them, and they were momentarily safe behind a rising cliff. Breathing heavily, Orion looked at her. "Okay, that was amazing. I don't even know how I did that." Lysera's lips quirked into a faint smirk. "The runes did it. You just listened." Her eyes softened. "You're learning fast." Before they could share another word, a figure appeared at the cliff's edge. A scout warrior from her clan, but unlike the others. His armor was darker, adorned with crimson runes that pulsed with intent. He raised a crystalline staff, chanting in the old tongue. The ground beneath their hoverbike rumbled violently. Orion's pulse spiked. This was not a casual patrol. This was something deliberate, something ritualistic. "What's he doing?" Orion asked, already sensing the danger. Lysera's amber eyes widened. "He's calling the rite of severed souls. It's forbidden, but he seeks the blade's energy. If he completes the ritual, the runes will drain you both, me and you. We cannot let it succeed." The hoverbike skidded as the canyon floor cracked beneath them. Energy surged in erratic waves, forcing Orion and Lysera to balance precariously. She reached toward his palm, where the blade rested. As her fingers brushed his hand, the runes blazed bright. A psychic echo shot between them, a surge of awareness and focus. Orion felt her fear, her resolve, her heartbeat synchronized with his own. He could see the opening. The scout warrior's focus was entirely on the ritual. They had one chance. Orion shouted, "We end this now." Lysera nodded. Together, they leapt from the hoverbike, landing in the midst of the ritual's energy circle. Sparks and psychic pulses exploded around them, a chaotic storm of light and sound. Orion swung the blade instinctively, guided by the resonance of Lysera's power. The scout warrior cried out as the runes clashed, the energy of the severed star reacting violently to their combined will. They moved as one. Each strike Orion made, Lysera mirrored with psychic focus. The energy around them twisted and pulsed, feeding off their connection, stronger than either could have wielded alone. The ritual faltered, then shattered entirely as the scout warrior was thrown back by the release of power. The canyon fell silent, save for the hum of residual energy in the runes. Orion looked at Lysera, breathless, exhilarated, and awestruck. "You just guided me through that. I didn't even think." And yet, she smiled softly, her fingers brushing against his palm, where the blade glowed faintly. "We are connected now. The runes chose you, yes, but they recognize us as a unit, as partners, as something new." For a long moment, they simply stood there, catching their breath, the canyon glowing faintly around them. The danger momentarily passed. Orion realized that the connection was no longer just a tool of survival. It was a bond, emotional and psychic, that would define every moment moving forward. "We'll need a plan," he said finally, voice steady, though his heart still raced. "The Empire won't stop, and the clan, they'll question what just happened." Lysera's amber eyes glimmered with determination. "Then we prepare. Together. Nothing else matters now." The valley, still vibrating faintly with the power of the severed star, seemed to approve. The runes pulsed gently, a rhythm of unity between human and alien, a promise of shared destiny. Whatever came next, imperial forces, clan politics, or ancient prophecies, they would face it as one. Orion allowed a rare, quiet smile. "Together," he said, and with that, they began walking deeper into the canyon, side by side, the glow of the runes lighting their path. For the first time, Orion felt a spark of hope. Not just for survival, but for the bond he had found, the power they now shared, and the future they would carve in a universe that had never expected humans to matter at all. The canyon glowed faintly with the residue of the severed star's power. The runes on Orion's palm and Lysera's armor pulsed steadily, a heartbeat of light echoing between them. For a moment, silence reigned, a deceptive calm. They had survived the Imperial scouts, the forbidden rituals, and the clan's suspicion, but the true test was about to begin. From the shadows above, a dark figure emerged. Admiral Cale Thorne, commander of the Empire's elite forces, his armor black as obsidian and etched with crimson runes that rivaled the severed star itself. His presence warped the energy in the canyon, making the very ground vibrate underfoot. "So, the human and the alien think they can defy me," he said, voice like grinding metal. "Foolish child and misled warrior. The severed star belongs to the Empire, and I will claim it." Orion stepped forward, the glowing blade tight in his grip. Beside him, Lysera rose, amber eyes blazing, her own runes flaring brighter in response. The psychic connection between them thrummed violently now, every heartbeat in sync, every breath entwined. "We're not yours to take," Orion said, voice steady despite the fear gnawing at him. "Not now. Not ever." Admiral Thorne's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "Words mean nothing. Only power matters." He raised a gauntlet hand, summoning a wave of energy that split the canyon air with a deafening roar. Rocks and shards of metal flew into the air, sparks showering down like miniature meteors. Orion and Lysera leapt to dodge, their movements instinctive, guided by the bond that had grown between them. "This way," Lysera whispered into his mind, the psychic link amplifying her voice. Orion obeyed, twisting in midair, the runes on their bodies pulsing in tandem as if the canyon itself bent to their will. Thorne struck again, summoning a storm of energy blades that rained down toward them. Orion countered with the severed star blade, its blue fire erupting in arcs that clashed with the crimson energy. Sparks, light, and psychic resonance intertwined, illuminating the canyon in a kaleidoscope of power. Lysera extended her hands, releasing pulses of her own energy. The two of them moved as one, a single entity, their combined power overwhelming the Imperial Admiral's strike. "You rely too heavily on that bond," Thorne sneered, spinning his staff to deflect their attack. "I will sever it." Orion gritted his teeth, feeling the psychic resonance flicker under the assault. Lysera's hand tightened over his wrist, grounding the connection, and the runes flared brighter than ever. "You can't touch us," she thought, her mind brushing against his. "We are one. Together, nothing can break us." For the first time, Orion realized the true potential of the severed star. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of unity, of connection, of courage that transcended species, prophecy, and empire. He could feel Lysera's strength, her clarity, her resolve, and it fed into him, guiding every strike, every dodge, every move. The canyon shook violently as Thorne unleashed his ultimate attack, a swirling vortex of energy designed to crush everything in its path. Orion and Lysera braced themselves, the psychic link anchoring them, their runes burning brighter than ever. Time seemed to slow. The wind howled, metal shards spun through the air, and the very stones trembled under the weight of the confrontation. Then, in perfect synchronicity, they struck. Orion lunged with the blade. Lysera mirrored his motion, and together their combined psychic and physical force shattered the vortex. Thorne screamed in fury as the attack rebounded upon him, knocking him to his knees. Sparks of crimson and blue clashed in the air, a visual explosion that lit the canyon with ephemeral brilliance. "You cannot win," Thorne growled, staggering. "I will destroy you both." Orion's grip on the blade tightened. "It's over," he said, voice calm but lethal. "Because we fight together." With a synchronized strike, Lysera and Orion unleashed a final surge of energy. The runes on the blade, and her armor intertwined in a torrent of light that struck Thorn squarely. The canyon echoed with a deafening roar as the admiral was thrown backward, his crimson energy dissipating in sparks. His armor cracked and shattered. Silence followed, a tense, breathless calm. Lycera sank to her knees beside Orion, exhausted but victorious. Orion lowered the blade, still glowing faintly, and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice softening. Lycera's amber eyes glimmered with relief and something else: trust, admiration, and the first hints of affection. I've never felt anything like that before," she whispered. "Not in all my training, all my life. That bond, it saved us." Orion smiled faintly, brushing a strand of her pale hair from her face. "No, you saved us. We just made it work together." The wind in the canyon shifted gently, carrying the faint echoes of the clan in the distance. Their whispers were not of anger now, but of recognition, of awe. The clan had witnessed the human and alien standing as one, defeating an imperial threat and activating the severed star beyond what any prophecy had predicted. Orion helped Lycera to her feet. "We should check on them," he suggested, glancing toward the kneeling warriors, "and then figure out what to do next." Lycera nodded, her hand brushing lightly against his as they moved together. The psychic link hummed softly, a warmth that spoke of trust and shared experience. For the first time since the ordeal began, Orion allowed himself a small, rare sense of hope. They had survived the Empire, the prophecy, and the trial of the clan. Days passed. The valley was now quiet, the glowing runes fading to a steady hum. Orion and Lycera trained together, learning to synchronize not just their physical movements, but the psychic link that had saved them. Through laughter, gentle teasing, and shared victories, they discovered an intimacy deeper than words, an understanding born of shared danger and trust. Lycera revealed to Orion the ancient secrets of her clan, rituals that healed the wounded, psychic conduits that allowed warriors to communicate silently, and the legacy of the severed star. Orion learned quickly, adapting his human ingenuity to complement her alien techniques. They became not just partners, but a symbol, a fusion of species, courage, and destiny. One evening, as the twin moons of Valhyrus rose high in the sky, casting silver light over the jagged canyon, Orion and Lycera stood together on a ridge overlooking the valley. Orion's hand found hers, their fingers entwined naturally. The runes on their armor and weapon pulsed faintly in unison, a soft heartbeat echoing the bond they shared. "We've come a long way," Orion murmured, voice low. "And there's more to come, isn't there?" Lycera smiled, leaning her head gently against his shoulder. "Always. But we face it together. Whatever comes, whatever challenges, we are one." Orion's lips curved into a rare, full smile. "Together," he echoed. The clan approached from the valley below, kneeling in recognition of the pair who had defied prophecy, defeated imperial forces, and proven that courage, empathy, and unity could surpass all expectations. They brought offerings, ancient tokens of their clan, acknowledging not just Lycera, but Orion, the human who had proven himself worthy in ways the clan could scarcely imagine. In the quiet aftermath, a small, sacred ceremony took place. The psychic link allowed Orion and Lycera to share a vision of the future, a family, not limited by species, a legacy of courage and love, children who would grow under the twin light of human ingenuity and alien wisdom. Their bond became the foundation of something new, a symbol across worlds that differences could unite, that hearts could align across species, and that even in the darkest times, hope and love would prevail. As the twin moons bathed the valley in silver light, Orion held Lycera close. The rune's gentle pulse resonated through them, a lullaby of power and unity. Together, they watched the horizon, not as warrior and ally, but as partners, lovers, and the beginning of a legacy that would inspire generations. For Orion, the mission had started as a simple survey. For Lycera, it had begun as a trial of survival. And now, at the end of the journey, the human and the alien stood together. The canyon quiet except for the pulse of the runes, their hearts synchronized, their future bright, and their bond eternal. The prophecy had chosen Orion, but it had been Lysera's courage, humanity's ingenuity, and their shared bond that had rewritten destiny itself. And as the stars shone above Alheris, a new chapter began.